Today we're sitting down on the porch with Gregory, a QHS member whose life is as heartwarming as a home-cooked meal. What paths did he follow to get to where he is today? Let's take a stroll down memory lane and see what's been cooking behind the scenes.
My name is Gregory. I was born in 1950, and I am the youngest of three siblings. And I did have a half brother, but I didn't know about that till later in life because my mother was married several times. And but I thought at that time, a fairly happy childhood. There was the one thing that I did have was, and I learned that later, I think when I was in my early teens, we had alcoholism really bad. Both my parents were, my real dad, and I never knew him after, and I was born in Iowa. And when my mother left Iowa with the three of us, and she decided to move to Florida. So I really never knew my real father. Later in life, I found out that he was also an alcoholic, and then everybody that she connected to would be alcoholic. So we went through a period of time, and I almost became an introvert at that point. But it because I didn't want people to come to the house because of the drinking stuff. So as we grew older and got in our teen years, we all kind of started filing out. And my mother was married several times. I mean, she married three other stepfathers. And when I graduated from high school and went into the military, and back in that day they had the draft going, which I enlisted. I didn't get drafted, and I had no college education. But so I went into the military and came out fairly early, honorable discharged, and met a girl and ended up getting married to her, and that was my first child through my first marriage. And right after he was born, he had a lot of physical problems, and which lasted him the rest of his life, and which he lived until he was 47. So he passed. But in the meantime, going back, we were only married like 4 years, and so I had a stretch after the divorce before I met my current wife now of a couple of years, and I worked several different jobs. But anyway, her father was in the painting business, and I ended up being in the painting business with him, and which lasted for a long time, and and we had two beautiful children, and I never had an issue with weight. If anything, I was too thin, and and that was one of the big draws for my second wife's mother, was trying to fatten me up, so and feed me, and she did. But I never really gained weight because I'm a busy guy, and I always stayed busy, and even in work and in play. And as we went through our first marriage, and we ended up getting divorced after 24 years, and I kind of threw myself. I had my job going on, which I had the business going, but I also threw myself into physical stuff in it, from bike riding to running. And I'll say, I'm 75 years old, and when I turned 60, it's probably the best health I've ever been in. And I started doing all kinds of stuff, and I had a friend of mine, but he was also divorced. But I started doing sprint marathons, and so I did that for a little while, and then got into cycling, and was proud of that. And I cycled, and I ran, and and I got into the situation where I was almost craving it every day, and and I did some pretty outstanding things for myself. In the meantime, my ex-wife and I got back together, and but I did turn into a workaholic, and I threw myself into my work, and combine that. But I've always stayed in touch with my children, even in the early days, and they always knew that we loved them, even after the divorce, and and I always made time for them, and no matter what. And in my 20s, I drank, and I smoked, and I got completely out of that through my second marriage. I never did that, and I've lived a very healthy life, and I'm very blessed to be 75 and still do what I do, and our eating also, with my wife Debbie. I'm kind of a follower of her. She leads me in the right directions, and and hasn't failed me yet. And we were still best of friends even through that little span of the divorce. And so that worked out really well. And we took the company and and took it to North Carolina once I decided to retire. And we came up with our up here because of our oldest daughter. And she had her first 2 grandkids, and I told her wherever she wanted to land that we would follow and come help out with the kids. So we packed up and sold our house and came up, and thank goodness we did. That was just about the time COVID hit, just a little after that, and so we were here for them, and she was trying to start a business, and so it's been a good life up here. And I'm like Debbie, we very seldom see the doctors, and we're pretty healthy. And the one thing I go back on, and one reason I kind of go to QHS, because I followed with Debbie over that, and I've had a few situations in the last 2 or 3 years. I took one of my fingers off splitting wood, or the tip of it, because I cut in my own firewood and I split it, and that's what we heat with most of the time. But then I got shingles, and I didn't get the shingle shot, but I got shingles really bad, and I got it up in my face and my eye. So when we started looking at the quantum healing, it's like I want to go through the QArc, because this has been a couple of years ago when I got the shingles, and I still have the remnants of the shingles in my left eye, and it also created tinnitus in my left ear, and so I'm still struggling a little bit with that, and life goes on, and so I'm looking forward to the makeover. I have a few things that I would like to have, from, like I said, from the tip of my head to the tip of my toes. So I've got things in there that I would like to have repaired, and but it's been looking forward to more and more things to do. And I'm with Debbie with children. We've always loved children, and I love babies, and I always have, and so I'm hoping that the experience will, when we back up in time and get our younger bodies, and we're at that point in our lives that we can go and we can do, and we don't have to work a job per se anymore. We've done that in our life, so we're ready to move on to new things.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.